Hi there, everyone. Welcome to this episode of the Classy Podcast. I am your host, Mary Sturgill. This is the podcast that's brought to you through a partnership between the Hill Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship and the Communication Studies Department here at Furman University. And we are right in the middle of our special series in which we talk to Furman students and recent alumni about their entrepreneurial endeavors. And so I have Spencer Tate with me here today. Spencer, welcome to the show.
Thank you. No, it's great to be on a podcast. This is the first time,
All
so
right.
we'll try my best, but I'm excited for the opportunity.
Cool. We're glad to have you. I know you, at your young age, are a serial entrepreneur right now. You just won the Paladin Pitch Competition. Let's talk about your current company, dotflo.
Sure.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, so right now Nemath and I, so Nemath Ahmed, he's my co-founder. He's actually in San Jose, California. That's why I had the festive San Francisco bridge behind me. So he's out in San Jose right now working at Cisco, and I'm out actually in Chicago working at Ernst & Young. He's doing more AI, machine learning, and I'm more on the finance side. So yeah, since the Paladin Pitch, well, first I went out to San Jose for 3 weeks to work in person with Nemath.
Mm-hmm.
During that time, we were able to continue to develop the vision. We were able to continue to talk with initial beta users and start those initial relationships with people who are actually going to be able to use our product. And yeah, it's been an exciting time. We're actually about to launch our initial real MVP that is going to go into the hands of 4 universities who we're talking to right now, who are using our product, or who will be using our product. And we're going to go through kind of an iteration mode where we just work with those kind of initial first users and see how we can provide the most value. But going back to dotflo and what it is and why we started it is, so I'm a data analyst and Nemath's the data scientist. And frankly, a lot of companies can't afford to hire a full-time data analyst or a full-time data science team within their organization.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of where the idea spurred of kind of leveraging new technology and building out our own novel way to streamline that data science process and make it accessible for teams who otherwise wouldn't be able to afford it. So that's really what we've been pushing on over the past few months, and we're getting it to a good stage where we can actually then put it into the hands of those initial universities. And I think we're at an exciting time right now.
Yeah. So I imagine your customer would be maybe universities, small or medium-sized businesses. Am I correct
Yes.
in that thinking?
Yeah, so actually when we did the Paladin pitch, we were pretty open to a lot of different verticals.
Mm-hmm.
So we were open to retail, manufacturing, food, universities, you name it. But what we found really quickly when we were developing kind of the technology behind what drives that streamlined process is that it's better, one, to focus on an initial vertical
Mm-hmm.
and essentially train the brain within understanding data within that specific industry and even problem statement. So what we're focused on right now is helping advancement and development teams at
Mm-hmm.
universities help understand how they can use machine learning, which is basically statistical methods that help with understanding how to assess the right people who I should reach out to, who might potentially donate to my university. So Furman was the first people who approached us, and they essentially said, "Hey, we have a data analyst on our team. However, we're lacking the data science expertise. This is something that could be really beneficial for us because it's not that we're guessing, but there is a lot of guessing, to be frank, that
Right.
goes into the process of who do I reach out to? Do I reach out to all 1,000 people on my list? And when we bring in dotflo, you can find out the top 100 people who are going to be most likely to donate or that have the characteristics that will donate a specific amount. So yeah, so we're actually just focused on fundraising teams right now
Mm-hmm.
and building out that validation that we can streamline it within this initial vertical, work with different data sets from different universities, basically train our or AI essentially
Yeah.
to learn the space of advancement
Yeah.
and provide that in-house for teams.
This is amazing because I could see how you would save money, time, and some of the effort that goes into development, right? Um, and chasing leads that aren't necessarily going to be the best leads for a university to get funding, right? And so I would think that what you guys are doing would help universities streamline that and just be work more efficiently. And that's the goal, I assume.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And what we found is that universities will pay 20, 30, $40,000 to send their data out to companies who will then do the machine learning on their own end. And then
Hmm.
they'll send the results back to those companies, like Furman, for example. And then they'll have the list of the top 100 people to do it. So not only do we want to put this in the hands of a university like Furman, but we also want this to be a tool where people who don't necessarily have that analytical background
Hmm.
can grow within their role and can leverage this technology and feel empowered and feel like they can really make an impact and feel like they can collaborate with their teammates at a whole new level that they just it was just too big of a barrier to get into before.
Right, right. That's amazing. How are you balancing all this? Because I know you're a full-time student as well, and you're at an internship this summer, which is why we're Zooming, and getting this thing off the ground. That's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing that comes to my mind is that I mean, Nemath and I love just innovating and thinking of ideas, and it's really about the journey in
Hmm.
a lot of senses for us. It's not necessarily something that is easy. It's time consuming. There's sacrifices that I have to make. Am I gonna go out and go to the bars on Friday, Saturday night, or am I gonna work on my startup?
Hmm.
I'm gonna work on my startup. And it's just kind of the opportunity costs at a younger age that I have to weigh. But we love it, and I think we have to take the small wins into consideration along the way that help continue to build the momentum, because we're at such an early stage right now where we have great opportunities in front of us. He's at a great tech company. I'm at a great financial institution where we both can learn a lot. And what we're just trying to do right now is just take advantage of those opportunities to learn as much as we can.
Hmm.
And if the opportunity comes where we really see a clear, foreseeable path to, like, let's say, raise money to then go full time into dotflo, then hey, that's going to be an opportunity we're going to weigh. But at the point we're at right now is we're just continuing to iterate and ideate on the idea, get that initial feedback, and I think at this time we can balance both things and do a great job at doing both.
Yeah.
But once school comes around, it'll kind of be like Ernst and Young will kind of be my new school, because Ernst
Right.
will go away for for that for that year. But yeah, one of the big things that I've been thinking about a lot is opportunity costs. And there's a lot of opportunity costs, especially at a young age, when it comes to, what am I going to focus on? So
Right.
that's your question. We love it.
Yeah. So this is not your first entrepreneurial venture. Gosh, were you a freshman when you did the first Paladin pitch that you did?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So as a freshman, you created a company. Tell us about the Trash and Dash company.
yeah, so it all started with I was really bad at taking my trash out at my dorm room. So it was like a 5-10 minute walk just to take the trash out. And I thought, this probably is a need. There's other people who probably are really busy like me, who trash is piling up in their room. And wouldn't it be nice if someone just came by their dorm room and came and picked it up on a scheduled basis? So that's kind of where the company University Trash and Dash came to light. I started that freshman year, second semester. I got 2 64-gallon trash bins at the local Lowe's, and yeah, I started growing that.
So where does that entrepreneurial spirit and just that innovative thinking come from, do you think?
Oh man, well, I think I have a lot to give credit to my parents. They're both really hard workers. So my mom, she's balanced multiple jobs throughout her life. My dad works long hours. They're just both very driven people. I come from a modest background, So I've really seen them work hard for what we have, and I think that drives me a lot. And then also my grandparents. I would say that I have great grandparents that always told me to just follow my dreams and to never give up. So I think that it sounds cheesy and cliche, but I mean it's driven me a lot over the
No,
years.
that's awesome because, a lot of entrepreneurs, especially young entrepreneurs, come from an entrepreneurial family. And sometimes for those of us who don't, it might be a little bit harder to get into that mindset, right? And I think that mindset is so important. So it's such a great thing that you talk about your family giving you that mindset that they've created you to be, an innovative thinker, obviously, since you're doing what you're doing. And I mean, who would have thought of, dotflo and helping universities really hone in on the development.
Sure.
So when you think about this process that you've gone through with first Trash and Dash and now dotflo, what are some of the things that you've learned that kind of along the way that might help other young entrepreneurs?
Yeah, well, it's actually funny because so yes, University and Trash and Dash and dotflo, but there was a few things actually in between that
Yeah.
ended up not working. I'm not going to go to the full extent of it, but to be short, there was I tried to start a company that would connect collegiate athletes to mentor
Hmm.
elementary, middle school, and high schoolers.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I remember you talking about that at one point. Yeah.
yeah, so that essentially I ended up not continuing that one because I was really having a hard time with the business model. But then two, if you're going to start a technical company, it's really hard to outsource the tech.
Mhm.
You really need a co-founder who's technical, who's gonna be in it with you. And I didn't really have that. So, and then also I was younger and I didn't have as much as experience. I still don't have a lot of experience right now. Um, but yeah, so I ended up stopping that. And then I started a group with my friend Tyler. And we basically brought together just driven people who wanted to ideate once a week.
Yeah.
So brought in people from all different universities, started doing that. Ultimately, we stopped it because it was really interesting what I learned. You can bring a lot of really smart people together. However, if there's not like a really big meaning or connection
Hmm.
within that group of people, it's really hard to motivate them. And it's really hard to get something going, especially if they can't really see the finish line. I'm someone who like I can have a more long-term outlook on things.
Hmm.
It's a little bit easier for me not to see the finish line, but for a lot of people, they want to see the finish line. They want to see, what's incentivizing them to carve out an hour and then to actually do more on their free time to like to dig into the group. So yeah, to those points, just starting things. I think
Yeah.
just being curious. Um, I think one of the biggest blessings in my life was when I started that first company. I didn't know what was going to happen. I literally went to the school library. I made a little flyer. I printed like 100 of them out, and then I started talking to people and getting people to sign up. Um, I think like when you're, at least for me, I would say trying to be an entrepreneur, especially if you don't like come from a super entrepreneurial background, you are naive to a lot of things.
Hmm.
Um,
You're not alone though. A lot of entrepreneurs aren't business majors, right? They don't know necessarily how the business side of things work. So you're not alone in that.
yeah, yeah. So you're naive to a lot of things, and you kind of, at least for me, it's kind of a trial and error. It's how am I going to step into this opportunity and how am I going to learn from it? How am I going to take that to then be successful when I take that next step forward? Um, so yeah, if I learned anything, it's just to take that initial step forward and be willing to step into the unknown. And it's not an easy journey. I mean, there was a lot of times where I did feel kind of lonely, like I kind of sacrificed not spending as much time with my friends, and then I didn't have as close relationships when I was a freshman and sophomore.
Hmm.
Once I like stopped those businesses, I was able to dig into relationships more. But I mean, there was an opportunity cost to that. Um, but if you really want something, you can go get it, and I believe that with all my heart, and that's kind of like why Nemath and I fully believe in the vision behind why we started dotflo and the purpose of it and everything like that. Um, But yeah, I probably could say a lot more lessons, but I'll keep it at that.
Yeah, I think that's a great lesson. And what, there's no better time to take those chances, like you were talking about, and than when you're young, right? And so that's why, and whenever I'm in class and my student has an idea, I'm like, why aren't you doing that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think it's important to just take a step forward when it's, especially if you haven't started anything before,
Right.
and you have that creativity to have ideas. You're gonna probably fail. It's the first few ideas are probably not gonna work out, and if they do, then that's awesome.
Right.
But out of all the successful entrepreneurs I've talked to, a lot of them failed first. And a lot of them it wasn't easy at all. So I think really quickly I found out that the glamour of, maybe putting on my LinkedIn that, oh, I was CEO of Trash and Dash, it goes away really quick because at the end of the day, no one really cares. I'll be completely honest. No one cares. Um, and you kind of find yourself in this place of like, oh, do I really want to do this? And
Hmm.
I think that's how you find out whether or not, this is something that, you might want to continue to pursue as you continue to grow.
Right. So what's next for dotflo?
Yeah, so basically right now, as I said, we're continuing to iterate on our initial product. It's really exciting because and at the beginning of last month, we got together. We actually had a call with Furman. The call didn't go great. Our product was buggy. It was kind of rushed.
Hmm.
Nemath, so he's more on the tech side. He was traveling to India because that's where he's from. He's an international student. He's in his master's program, and I admire him a lot. Honestly, I mean he's a very hard worker, and through meeting I'm kind of going on a tangent right now, but from meeting people from different cultures, I think it's super important to work with them
Yeah.
um, because he brings a completely different perspective from what I bring to the table. Um, but yeah, all that to say, where was I going with that?
No, I think you just hit on something super important. So when you're starting a company, you need to bring in people who have the talents that you don't have, who have different perspectives than you, so that you can look at things in a more full way, right?
yeah, yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. So with that, where I was going with that is we kind of were rushed into that initial kind of
Hmm.
demo with Furman. Didn't go great. However, what we did learn is that we needed to focus more on that industry. And that's where we just said, hey, we're not going to be reaching out to 100 other people from retail, manufacturing, maybe food. We're just going to focus on college universities. So we have been talking to different universities. We have demos set up. We're getting data from these universities.
Hmm.
And basically, over the next month and a half, we're just really going to work with these universities and continue to build out our product, make it functional for their needs. And by this September, our goal is to have paying customers, paying enterprises on the platform. It's a software as a service. So it's something where it's in the cloud, you log on to your browser, you don't have to download anything to your computer. And they can get that seamless value of one, really understanding their data, but being able to do so in a way where they can grow within their role and
Hmm.
be able to collaborate with each other on the insights they're finding and really put this as a platform where they can go to the next level of how they can ultimately find people who are going to donate to the university and do it in a much more effective way than just kind of guessing and sending the 10,000 emails that it's going to cost $10,000 compared to the 1,000 emails that has a much more higher probability that those people are going to respond.
Yeah.
Um, so really, we're just trying to build that environment right now. It's a journey. Like we kind of thought that we were going to have things a little bit quicker than we did, but it's completely fine. And we're actually staying on track with what we wanted to accomplish over the summer. We wanted to get beta users on the platform. We
Hmm.
wanted to iterate. And by the time the semester comes around, we wanted to have paying customers. And we're on track for that right now.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. So are you one of the entrepreneurs or serial entrepreneurs, I should say, that keep a notebook?
Yeah, so I am I do, I actually do. I love journaling. So I do this thing before I go to bed where I'll write the most important thing I did, a summary, how I can be excellent tomorrow, and then what I'm grateful for. And when I, yeah, and
I love that.
well, it helps me it helps me reflect on the day, but I can spit out some ideas through there. But yeah, I have ideas all the time, and a lot of them are kind of crazy. And something that I love about working with Nemath is that we feel open and we can shoot down ideas really easily if it's not a good idea. I
Right.
think like when you when you look for someone to work with, because I would say from experience, if you're gonna start a company, do it with someone else, at least to start. I don't know. You can do it on your own, but it's better when you do it with someone. Just from experience doing it by myself to do it with someone else, it's like a relationship and you're
Yeah.
working with someone and you're growing with someone in a sense. Um, but yeah, we've kind of built an environment, a culture where we're both open to sharing ideas and to saying, hey, this is why we don't think this is going to work. And it helps us get to it's going to help us get to the ultimate finish line. And like I said, those little wins is literally like someone responding to an email at this point. There's so many people who don't respond to us, but we just have to keep going. So we just take
Absolutely.
wins as momentum, because it's all about momentum. Um, Going out to San Jose and me going out there, it was all part of the momentum. Yeah, it cost almost $3,000 for 3 weeks for me to be out there. However, it was worth the investment, because I don't know if we would be at this point right now if I didn't go out there and I didn't continue to grow the relationship with Nemath, because we met back in February. So we
Hmm.
hadn't known each other that long. We met at a hackathon. It was so random how we met.
Yeah. I was going to ask. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, so literally, and this all starts with kind of the why behind just going and doing things. I
Hmm.
wanted to do a hackathon. The whole story behind dotflo is actually we were working on a completely different idea for like a month. And then we had this pitch competition at Georgia Tech at the
Hmm.
end of March. Nemath and I met mid-February. We basically were on a hackathon team. And if you don't know what a hackathon is, it's where you have 36 hours to essentially build a product from scratch. And our product was we built an AI trash can that if you would put something in front of the bin, it would essentially say, this is what bin you should throw it in. Because people, what I found doing trash and dash is people are terrible at recycling.
Yes, they are.
But the thing was, in Trash and Dash, we were able to reinforce the users writing on their can what they were doing wrong when they would put their recycling out, and they actually got better over time. So it was that same concept. I won't talk anymore about that, but that then led Nemath and I to really building that relationship. And I said, hey, I'm working on this one idea called data share. It was a data monetization idea,
Hmm.
blockchain involved. It was confusing. And essentially we found out pretty quick that there were just some things within the idea that were hard to get around. So then when I came home for spring break, I said, you know what? I'm going to go out and I'm going to talk to as many small and medium-sized businesses that I can. I'm going to understand their problems. And that's what we did. And then we realized that a lot of these businesses can't afford data analysts, data scientists. So we saw kind of a niche within that.
Right.
And that's where this idea evolved. And so Nemath and I, just to share a little bit more about like the journey that we've gone through so far, we competed at a pitch competition at Georgia Tech.
Hmm.
We were one place away from winning $500,000.
Wow.
Yeah, we were very close, one place away. And ultimately, after that pitch competition, and the guy who basically carries it out, he sold a company for a lot of money at Georgia Tech, and he basically helps student entrepreneurs, and they do this
Hmm.
pitch competition once a year. Um, and yeah, after that pitch competition, I think it shows a lot about the passion that Nemath and I have is that we didn't put our heads down. We got to the drawing board and we said, what are we gonna have to do to get paying customers on the product and validate this? We went to the library and continued the work. And that's what we did. And then ultimately that brought us to the Paladin Pitch, where I was super grateful to have the opportunity to pitch there. The Hill Institute is a great organization that has provided me a lot of opportunities that I've been really grateful for. So I definitely want to say thank you to them if anyone's watching that's associated with the Hill Institute, because ultimately, um, yeah, I don't think I'd be the same entrepreneur that I am right now without some of those opportunities.
Hmm.
Um, so So yeah, and now we're in the summer and continue to build.
Yeah, I love this story. This is going to be a great story for your website. How you and Nemath met, and for just the story of the company and how this was born. Spencer, I just have so much admiration for you and what you're doing, and the fact that you're going after your dreams and you're not putting that off. And I hope our listeners, I know they get how intelligent you are and how compassionate and passionate that you are about being an entrepreneur and being innovative and making a space, because you're doing everything right, man. You are, I don't even know what episode this is of this podcast, but I've been talking to so many entrepreneurs who are, years ahead of you as far as age goes, but not as far as their entrepreneurial journey goes, right? And you are right on par, if not in front of some of those guys in your thinking. And I just can't wait to see what you guys do in the future.
Well, like parental advice, like this is just one perspective. We don't even have any paying customers yet, but we're gonna do everything in our power to get paying customers on the platform and really change the way that data science is done. I mean, that's our ultimate vision, is to create our own basically AI that can go within different platforms and be able to help software engineers, but people who aren't, the people who don't have the skills of a data scientist to basically streamline that process. And we think it can happen, and we're going to keep pushing forward to make it happen. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate everything you said, though.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think, you may not have any paying customers right now, but I think you're going to be on target for September. And I just wholeheartedly believe in what you guys are doing. And as a professor at Furman, I'm going to say I'm so proud of you.
Well, and I just want to say Furman's been a great experience. One, like my coaches on the Furman cross country team, I only ran for 2 years, but I mean, they instilled a lot of great things in me. And then also the challenging professors that I've had. Thank you, because it has been challenging.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not the student who just has the 4.0 GPA, who does everything like that, there's opportunity costs for sure.
Exactly. And I love the fact that you talk about them in the way that you talk about them, because a lot of times in these conversations that I have with people, we kind of omit the opportunity cost, and there are choices that you have to make, but you have to and that's true with anything, not just entrepreneurism, but you just have to kind of weigh your options and see what's going to be best for you in the long run. So,
Yeah.
Spencer, it was such a pleasure to talk to you today.
Yeah, and thank you so much for having me on. I don't know if I'm gonna listen to my voice when but
You'll listen, you're fine.
I'll listen to it. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's been great. And usually I'm on the other side of the lens,
Right.
asking people questions. So it's interesting to kind of, I guess, share my take. So
It really is. And I so enjoyed this conversation and listening to your take, and I know our listeners will too.
yeah, well, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. That does it for this episode of the Class E podcast. I am your host. Remember, this podcast is brought to you through a partnership between the Hill Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship and the Communication Studies Department here at Furman University. And by the way, if you are a Furman student and you've listened to this conversation, then you might want to check into the Paladin Pitch competition that Spencer won last year, and you could be in his shoes this time next year, right?
That does an interview.
Exactly. That does it for us of this episode of the Class E podcast. Until next time, everybody, dream big.